Joe Schoen, Giants GM, there was on Kay Adams, Up at Adams podcast/vodcast, whatever the term you want to use, because it is on YouTube as well. And Kay has some good, interesting thoughts on a lot of things going on currently with the Giants there. I thought was kind of interesting. On the first opening weeks of the schedule, he said, right at the beginning, you want to get off to a fast start. That's something we did in 2022 and haven't done the last 2 years. So you'd always like to get off to a fast start if you can. We've got 2 division games there with Washington and Dallas right at the gate, and then a primetime game at home. And I thought it was interesting he didn't even mention what team it was at home, by the way, guys. Kansas City. Like, you're literally facing 3 teams to start the season. One went to the NFC Championship game. One we haven't been able to beat in years. And one that literally went to the Super Bowl last year. Like, that's a rough trio to start there. I like the fact that he kind of ignored the challenge to a certain degree. It was just like, we have to find a way to get it done. I do like that. But I think that's a tough ask, guys. I know, I'm thinking, honestly, they're going to start the year off like 1-2 or 0-3. I hate to say it. I really do, but that's a tough start. He's also asked about the difficulty of the schedule as a whole. Because again, according to the experts, we have the toughest schedule in the NFL. I will say point blank again, as I said, we said last night when they released it, that's all BS. It's all smoke and mirrors, because in the end, we don't know who has the toughest schedule until the season's over. Until we know what teams are actually good or bad next year. Things happen, injuries happen, things change. Players get better, players get worse. Things do change. But yeah, on paper, it's a tough schedule. But he said there's nothing we can do about it. It is what it is, and we have to control the controllables. We're going to focus on us right now, this time of year, bringing the guys together. Well, we have some new players, rookies, and free agents that we signed. We're really just starting to build the team culture and continuity amongst the guys that we have. Each year is different, and there's a lot of roster turnover year to year. Right now, we're just focused on us, and we like the pieces we brought in this offseason. It's going to continue to gel, and we'll be ready to go at the start of the season. Like I said, I like that. It's a good mentality to have. Like, we can't control the schedule, guys. Let's be very frank on that. The Giants couldn't lobby the NFL and say, let's change the schedule. This is too tough for us. We don't like it. And again, as I said yesterday as well, the NFC East teams as a whole have a tough schedule. The Eagles, the Cowboys, the Commanders, these teams are all facing a lot of the same teams we're facing, guys. Now, is there a couple of games here and there changes? Yes, because there's a couple of games that change based on your ranking last year within your division. But if you look at, the schedules right now for the Eagles, the Cowboys, the Commanders, it is also a really tough schedule. And, one thing I don't think is being talked about enough as well is the Giants aren't doing a lot of travel. We're like one of the least, traveling teams, basically, just based on miles there in 2025 as well. So that needs to be, talked about a little more. But, you look at what's going on with the Eagles. So let's give that an example. They're playing the Chiefs as well. They got the Rams. They got the Bucks. They got the Broncos. They got us, obviously, Vikings, Packers, Lions, Cowboys, Bears, Chargers, Raiders. It's not that much different. They got the Bills. We don't have the Bills. I don't think we do. At least that's the schedule now. But I'm just saying, like, it's a tough schedule. So the Giants can't complain because the rest of the NFC East is not getting a cakewalk, guys. It's not like the NFL was like, hey, Giants, you play the NFC North and the AFC West, and the rest of the division is going to play the Panthers and the Patriots. And, it's like, it's not how it works. Again, with that example I gave, the Eagles have the Bills, which I believe is because because again, the division portion there at that point. So we got the Patriots instead. We got the 49ers. They got the Rams. So again, it is what it is, guys. And I love the fact that, again, that's the attitude. If we can't control that, we can't. What we can control is what we do. And that's the truth. And that's what when you got a big issue you're facing like that, a big uphill battle, which again, that's what we have with a team that's trying to get back to winning. It's an uphill battle. And that to me is a great attitude to have. Like we're just trying to gel. We're focused on ourselves. We got a lot of pieces to be like here. We're trying to get this going. And honestly, guys, again, I hate to say it, but I'm optimistic. I do love the moves they made this offseason. So if that's the attitude that Joe Schoen has, I hope that's trickling down because you can't change that. Deal with what you can deal with. You know, any of us that have jobs as well, and listen, obviously most of y'all listening probably have a job of some kind. And if you don't, kudos to you. But we all have things we have to deal with, adversities in our career. This is an adversity for these guys. This is their career. You know, I really think, again, that's a good attitude to have on his part there. Joe Shames also asked about Abdul Carter. He said, the work ethic, you get to see it now. You get to hear about it, how much he loves football, and he's consistently working. Our rookies are here first thing in the morning. They're the first lift group. So to see him in their building doing the extra field work, you hear about it, but you take a guy where we took Abdul at number 3, and you see a guy that's doing all the right things when he's in the building. That's what's most impressive. That's really what you want when you invest the third pick in a player. You know, and that's a good thing to see as well. You know, you like to hear positive, but again, Joe Shane's not going to tell you negative. Let me be very clear on that. Like Joe Shane is about as biased as sources you get, obviously, at that point there. So, you know, you got to take it through a little bit of a grain of salt there. But I don't think he goes out of his way to build up a player like this, unless that's what he's seeing and that's what he's hearing. Because then you're just setting him up to fail, so to speak. You probably say quiet, hey, we're excited about Abdul Carter, and move on. Like he's going out of his way to praise the work that he's putting in. So, you know, and listen, Abdul Carter, we talked about him, you know, a lot this offseason, obviously. Again, it's a guy we thought the Giants might be getting. And we had some concerns, but our concerns were the injuries. Our concerns were some of the personality stuff. No one ever talked about him in a bad way as far as his work ethic. And, you know, I'm glad to see that it's good. I just got to hope that, you know, some of the personality issues were kind of overplayed and got to hope that the injury issues don't pile up. You know, that's the two things we got to see there. On the defense on a whole there, he said, on paper, I like the pieces, but again, we have to come together and gel as a whole. But yeah, Javon Holland, a guy we added from Miami. I'm sorry, Javon Holland, a guy we added from Miami, also provides leadership and ball skills. Paulson Adebo is in the same boat. A lot of career production in terms of interceptions and PBUs. It's pass breakups, by the way, and provided some leadership for us. And then you look up front with some of the additions and the ability to get after the quarterback. Burns, Dexter, Kayvon. Yeah, on paper, I like the defense. There's good players, good leadership, guys with vet experience, young guys. Then we have guys going to year 2 who played well year 1. I'm excited to see how Tyler Newman and Drew Phillips play this year going into their second year. They've had good off seasons. They've been around a lot. They've been working hard. Add the new guys with the guys who were here, and I'm excited to see what they can do. All those guys, there's going to be ways we can keep them on the field together. Obviously, Abdul has some versatility, and he played off the ball when he was at Penn State. We've dropped Kayvon into coverage before. We've dropped Burns. Shane's doing a good job of how he's going to envision these guys on the field at times. Sometimes you're going to be against mobile quarterbacks where maybe some of these guys spy. There's a lot of different scheme fits that we can use with these guys because they do have the versatility and they're all smart enough to learn multiple jobs. Yeah, like I said, that's nice. He says, I'm excited about it, and Shane is too. They've been up in the lab upstairs in the defensive meeting room looking at how they're going to use all these guys. Again, guys, it's the defense has got to be what's got you excited. Again, let's be honest, the offense is not that much different. It's only thing that's really different is the biggest thing, and that's quarterback. Again, I think all 3 quarterbacks, and I'm leaving DeVito out for a moment here because I think he's going to be a practice squad guy, but the 3 that'll be on the roster, Russell Wilson, the starter, Jameis Winston, the backup. Jackson Dart as your emergency third quarterback, just to keep him on the roster so nobody takes him and keep him sitting around for a while. All three of those guys I would take over Daniel Jones. Just calling it like it is. All three of those guys I would take over Drew Lock. All three of those guys I would take over Tommy DeVito. That's the biggest change in this offense. So that and Cam Scatterbo, I just think is going to be a nice addition to the running game too. But the defense though, guys, that's where all the changes are made. He mentioned a lot of it. Again, he got Javon Holland is the best safety on the market. We got him. Paulson Adebo, a lot of people had him listed as the best corner on the market. The injury last year is a little scary, but we got him. Again, Nubin Phillips going into second year. Dexter Lawrence coming back from his injury, who was dominant last year, guys, point blank. And I'm not just saying for most levels. Guy had 9.5 sacks in what 10, 11 games. I mean, dominant, even by his standards, what he's done the last couple years prior. Then you throw on Kayvon Thibodeau, who again, above average player. I know he's not great and elite, and some people get upset about that, but he's still an above average player. You get Brian Burns, who had a really good year while being hurt. A little slow start he had, but once he got rolling, while being hurt, had a really good year. Not just pass rush, but a really good run stopper as well on his end. Then you throw in now the additions now, the Abdul Carters, the Darius Alexander is there. Also, Bobby Okereke was injured last year and had trouble getting off rushers at times as well because the defensive line up front was so bad. This is going to be an interesting defense, guys. And I'm glad to see that he went all through that, because that just shows that he understands. And listen, that was one of the things that he got called out on. I still don't understand why to a certain degree. But, John Mara's end of the year press conference was calling him out point blank, saying he needed a better defense. Again, offense was the problem. I don't understand why, but defense was what was called out on. And, I think it looks like they really took that to heart, and they really shored up that defense, and, some of the best ways to help a young quarterback, we have in Jackson Dart, we're trying to develop here. Veteran presences, top flight receiver to help him, offensive line, a good running game, but also a good defense, because the defense can bail you out of situations and help you get back into good situations with turnovers. A lot of things the Giants need to help a young quarterback are there. You can question the offensive line, so that's a very fair statement to make. Though it looked a whole lot better before the Andrew Thomas injury and all. Speaking of Jackson Dart, there was talk about, obviously, Brian Dable wanting him more than Joe Schoen. There was a lot of that coming on there. On that, and with that, there was agreement that he was the guy, quote unquote. Shane said it was an organizational decision. Any play that we take, it was a collaborative process. It's very detailed, and we believe in it. Jackson was the guy that was on the radar throughout the fall. We were able to see play live and spend a lot of time with him at the Senior Bowl as well this spring. So again, he's going to say that it's a collective thing at that point there. Again, a lot of reports are that Brian Dable's the one who wanted him really badly. And in the end, like I said, listen, he's his coach. He's the guy that's supposed to be the quarterback whisperer. Get him his guy. On Dart's toughness, he said, I love it. I love it. You like the competitiveness, and he's competitive in anything that he does. Anything you do, he's uber competitive. We have ping pong tables, pool, whatever it is. He wants to win, and that shows up on film. The way he plays, the energy he brings, the toughness. You see him stand in the pocket, take hits, and deliver the ball accurately. And what really stood out was the leadership. And I think some of that moxie can transcend across both sides of the football, leading not just the offensive guys, but the defensive guys, the special teams, whoever it may be, and truly being a leader of that Ole Miss football team. So interesting, and a really good word of ours is character stuff. And again, I think that's a lot of what we didn't necessarily know before he became a Giant, is some of the character things with Jackson Dart there. Again, you kind of hear things third party, meaning you hear a reporter for the school talking to somebody else who's an NFL's, contributor for some kind of publication, and they may do article on it, but it's kind of that there's multiple degrees to it. Now it's specific, like here's a guy in the building, you're hearing people that we read now talk about them. or in this case, you're the GM now talking about him because he's dealing with him on a daily basis. It's not an interview process anymore. It's he's in the building. This is what I'm seeing now. So all good things you hear on him mentally. Hopefully he's, like I said, physically a good quarterback as well. But you do hear a lot of good things about him as far as his leadership, his work ethic, his toughness. A lot of stuff that I do like to see in a quarterback as well. So I'm kind of happy to see that stuff there. Hopefully, you know, hopefully it's something that we see overall in him, keeping that as he progresses through. Because I do think Daniel Jones had that in the beginning of his career a little bit and kind of lost it. And especially the Jason Garrett year. So when you kind of saw him lose it there. So on Dart's passion, he said, those are all traits that we covet and we look for. Obviously, it spills over. He's a bit outward with his emotion on the field. And I don't mind that at all because that can be contagious, whether it's amongst your teammates, the crowd momentum. You love the passion, the toughness that he plays with. So again, a lot of good things you're hearing about Jackson Dart there from Joe Schoen. So I did see the comment also here from Deb. Was there any mention of Kafka calling plays? I will say this. I haven't heard any mention specifically from Dable, Shane, or anybody like that saying that Mike Kafka will be calling plays. I can tell you he definitely was calling plays during the rookie minicamp. I think they won't announce the final decision until they've finalized. So they don't do like a back and forth like they did back in 23 there. Sutton tells me he's going to get the play calling. Sutton just tells me that the focus on Dable's end is going to be more of the CEO role within the organization as opposed to, him doing what he did last year and just micromanaging the offense and do a little craziness in the process because there was a lot of weird plays, a lot of things were like, "Ooh, that doesn't make any sense." And it's probably because his attention is being pulled away one place while he's trying to make, calling plays. And he said it himself when he first got hired. He didn't want to call the plays. He thought it was better that an offensive coordinator does. So, and him being a guy who was an offensive coordinator saying that obviously holds a lot of weight to it there.
If you like that clip, then you will love the full episodes too. Find us on your favorite podcast app and look for us on all your favorite social media platforms.
Thanks so much.
Please, I'm begging you. Please subscribe.